Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hello Redlow podcast. I'm your host, Terry Mullen, and I'm so happy you're here. If you're new here, welcome. Redlow is older spelled backwards. I'm older, and perhaps you are too. Or perhaps you're just a little bit curious about who I am and what I have to say. I show up here each week talking about all things like navigating life transitions, overcoming hard things, and rediscovering who we are now in this season of life. I do solo episodes, and I bring on a few of my friends, other amazing women who are stepping forward with their lives, starting businesses, and overcoming their own hard things. We all have a story to tell, so sit back and listen in. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hello Redlow podcast. I'm your host, Terry Mullen, and I am so happy you're here today. I'm even more excited for my guest and my friend, Cathy Conrad. Cathy and I met through another coaching program that we were doing together, kind of as we start and build these businesses, our online communities. And Cathy just has a really unique story. She kind of shifted and pivoted midlife, and she is now an RV advisor. So she has this super cool niche. And I've been able to coach her kind of along the way and help her kind of find her voice. And you're going to learn about some of the new things that she's doing. So sit back, listen in. This is a great episode today from a really wonderful woman. And without further ado, welcome Cathy Conrad.
Well, thank you, Terry. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited.
Well, I am so excited you're here. As you know, I know you bought my book, Step Forward. And so, as you know, my passion is really about helping women, especially midlife women, kind of step forward with their life and kind of help them find their voice, and then also spotlight them on this podcast and hear kind of their journey. So, I just love your story. I'd love for you to just kind of start and tell everyone kind of how you arrived at this place being an RV advisor. And I know it just excites you. I know you're helping so many people. So kind of give us a little bit of a background about how you landed in this space.
Well, I guess my husband and I used to be tent campers.
Wow.
But, as time went on and we got older and, graduated from the thermarest to the air mattress to, you know, and that we were camping up in Truckee one weekend, Labor Day weekend, and we were kind of looking around. There were quite a few travel trailers at the campground, and we're like, oh, I bet that's more comfortable. I bet that's fun. And so the conversation, that's when it kind of started. So when we got home from that trip, I started this 2-year venture of doing research on everything I could find about RVs. Because first I was fascinated with, we love the outdoors, and we knew that we knew we'd probably enjoy it, right? Because we were already doing it, but this would be with more creature comforts and our home on wheels, right? So as we age, that seemed like a good logical transition to continue our adventures. So after 2 years of doing research and going to RV shows and visiting dealerships, we ended up buying a gently used. There was a specific brand that we discovered that was a good quality build. So we were waiting for one gently used to come up. And so we bought an RV, and, my husband and I both working. I was in a job for 10 years that I loved the people that I worked with there, but it just wasn't the best fit for me. And I didn't feel I was able to grow. And I didn't feel I was able to use all my talents. And so I think it kind of started I took Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within.
Yep.
And that sort of gave me the push to take that step to leave my job. But prior to that, I'm going to backpedal just a little bit. But we owned our home in Sacramento, and we were planning to sell our house when we retired and hit the road RVing and traveling. Well, things that are getting crazy, around COVID with the economy and everything. And so we decided, gosh, we have our RV. We could sell our house now at the top of the market. We didn't want to hit another downturn like we did in 2008, 9, 10, in the middle of a remodel, ending upside down,
Right.
So we put it on the market. on a Friday, Mother's Day weekend in 21, and it was sold by Tuesday. So,
Wow.
yeah. So that was
Wow.
just, you know, that in itself was a big marathon to get your house ready to sell and then to move everything out. So we were so grateful to have our RV. So we lived for 2 years up in the foothills in California at a
Mm,
resort, and we loved it there. And we met so many nice people who were doing the same thing. They were living in their RVs, our age, figuring
wow.
out what was the next step.
Wow.
What was the next step? So meanwhile, we had we really wanted to leave California and move on to another adventure. And so, as it turns out, my husband got a job in Idaho, got a job offer in Idaho
Wow.
with a construction company there. He's a commercial site superintendent, so he builds, big buildings and things like that. So they hired him, and our son was a graduate of Sac State in the construction management program. My husband gave him his new company, his resume. They called him immediately, made him an offer. And meanwhile, my son's, we had helped him get a fifth wheel and his truck and that because we knew we wanted to be on the move and we
Yep.
wanted to do it together. And that made the most sense was
Mm-hmm.
to get them set up as well. So in May of 23, we headed out to Idaho. And in June, I went back out and drove back with my son and his wife and little boy, and drove my daughter-in-law's car. So we're all here in Idaho together.
Wow.
But during that time of, I guess, when we were up in the foothills, that's when I took the Tony Robbins UPW class.
Yeah.
And I gave my notice in April of 22,
Wow.
which for my job.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up consulting back with them for 6 months to train the two people they are hiring to replace
To
me.
release you.
Um,
Wow.
not kidding.
I've said you're a
And
get it done kind of girl, so that explains it. Wow.
so that was my kind of first experience at consulting. And I
Ah,
loved it. I loved because I told them, okay, I'll do it, but it's going to be, on my terms. And so I was in charge of my own schedule, my own rate, you know what I mean? And I
yep.
only wanted to do it part-time.
Yeah.
So it was liberating to sell our house and be free of a mortgage. And it was very empowering to quit a job that I had one foot out the door for quite a long time.
Mm,
And then
I
to
love
experience
that.
the
Sorry.
consulting, that freedom of being, your own boss.
Yeah.
Loved that. So once I got through that consulting, I'm like, okay, now what? Now what? Now what do I do? And we're still in California. So I think I signed up for the coaching program right before we left California and actually started it once we hit Idaho, like the next day,
Wow.
the coaching program. So I wanted to do something that I was passionate about, something that lit me up, something I was excited about. And I'm, I love the RV lifestyle. I love
Mm,
RVing. I love traveling. I also was really grateful that I did all the research that I did because what I learned as I got into it is there is a big learning curve. There are a
yeah.
lot of things to learn. And when you buy a rig, whether it's a truck and a trailer or fifth wheel or a motorhome, it's a big investment.
Mm,
And there's common mistakes you can make that end up costing you a lot of money. So I really
yeah.
wanted to go in educated so I understood how everything worked and also, to protect your investment.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a really smart move. And so as in our travels over time, the first 2 years, we were weekend warriors and we took extended trips for
Mhm.
vacations in our RV. And once that third year hit, we sold our house, then we were full time, but more
Yeah.
stationary because of my husband's job. So I thought, as in our travels, some of the things that I saw were like, you know,
Yeah.
like people hitting trees because they don't have a spotter and damaging their rig. Somebody leaves their awning out, the wind picks up, and it's just they're common mistakes that people make, but you don't know what you don't know. So my goal really is to empower people with knowledge that will give them confidence, to get
Yeah.
out on the road, and so that they know what to expect, what the kind of things to expect, how to handle them, um, and not experience those expensive mistakes that are totally avoidable, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I decided to do that, to educate people. I mean, the information, yeah, it's out there and it's free, but do you want to spend 2 years researching like I did? And then I took a boot camp also with our inspector, which was
Yeah.
great. So I invest if you invest a little money on the front end, you're going to end up saving money in the long run,
Yeah.
is my feeling. So I want people to have as good of an experience as we have had, because you see a lot of people, I mean, some of these things can be pretty devastating that can happen. And there's a lot of safety
Oh,
issues
yeah.
that you need to be aware of as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
I was,
love it. It's,
pardon, say that
I said
again.
I love it. I love it. I love RVing, and
Yeah.
I want to help people have the best experience possible, because for some people they could get discouraged, and then they've spent all this money. And
I think it makes me think of city slickers really in a way, because I think people think they're just going to hop in and, these vehicles and just go do it. And right. So
that's a good analogy. Yeah.
yeah, it's what it makes me think
Yeah.
of. And truly, like I remember my parents, they bought a motorhome. And I remember, I can't remember what was happening inside, but I remember they had taken out the oven and they were using it as a voting booth. I lived in a small town up in Washington State, and so they were using it as a voting space. And I remember that my dad went in and somehow quickly put in this oven, put it back in, and then when we went to turn it on, it exploded. And he had, to this day, he has severe, he had third-degree burns on his arms. He was lucky with his face, but got severe burns. So I have witnessed that firsthand. I mean, I think as you're talking, I was just thinking about how this is a really big deal. When you are buying a vehicle like this, a very large vehicle, you really have to know there's so many safety issues that can take place, much like
Exactly.
what you're sharing. And I think we all think we're weekend warriors, right? We can just hop in it and do it. And people don't really think about the level of responsibility,
Yeah.
right?
For yourself, your family, and other people.
Yeah,
Because if you're
exactly.
on the road, for example, towing with a truck that doesn't have the capability to tow or to carry the weight that you have behind you, then you have a case of the tail wagging the dog. And
Yeah.
that not only can affect your safety on the road, it can affect other people as well.
When you say tail wagging, do you mean like it's swerving in the back? Is that what that means? Like a swerve?
Yeah, it's too heavy. Like,
Ah,
people are always concerned, can I tow it?
yeah,
Well, you might be able to tow it, but can you stop it? That's really the question.
yeah.
Can you stop it? So you have to know what the numbers are for your truck and your trailer both, you
I'm
know.
a little bit of a nerd. I'm a small town girl really at heart. So all this stuff really resonates with me. So I love it. It's just I'm fascinated by a lot of this. So I'm kind of tracking with you on all these things. But I do have a question. So what is a fifth wheel? What does that mean when you say fifth wheel? What does that mean as far as like,
Okay,
go ahead.
how is it differ from anything? So it's a pull behind, but instead of attaching, it's not a bumper pull, so that it doesn't attach to a hitch at the back of your truck.
Uh-huh.
It attaches in the bed of the truck. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
yeah, so if you're standing looking at it from the side, there's kind of this L at the
Hmm.
front of it. When you a lot of times that's the bedroom, or now they're making kitchens up there and everything. But so it fits into the center of the bed of your truck, and it
Oh, got
hooks
it.
up there. So it's a little different towing experience. It's a little bit different backing up. It's a little bit, it's not like a, a pull behind, a bumper pull where it just follows right behind you.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, I've heard you use that term before and I haven't I didn't ask, but that's really
Mhm.
interesting. And I've seen that. I've seen the people that have it where it's kind of cups up over the back of the truck versus just
Yeah.
being behind. So
Yep.
that makes sense.
Exactly.
Um just I forgot as you were talking, I was thinking that you and I have actually met in person. So through this coaching group back
Yes.
in like June or May was end of June, maybe it was end of May. We've actually met in person in California.
Yes,
So,
yes,
which is
yes.
amazing. I mean, I love it. I love this community and all that we're doing. And for you to be a female kind of in this space and just having conversation with you, I'm finding there's a lot of women that are kind of out there doing this. It's a super
Mhm.
cool niche for women that are out there kind of sharing information about what it's like to be an RV. And you are so knowledgeable with this. It's really incredible. I mean, I've heard you talk many times just in these different groups that we're in. You're really knowledgeable, Kathy, and you're also you really do your research. You're very you make decisions too, and you're very methodical. So, as a consultant, I would fully trust you to help me if I ever wanted to buy an RV. I really would. And I think one of the things that's
Ah,
really interesting is we were talking before we jumped on here. I did a podcast episode about being a midlife sojourner, and it makes me think about this. There's a community of midlife people now, as you've said, that are buying RVs. They're kind of, selling their homes. They're kind of doing Airbnbs. And so I'm super fascinated by this whole community of people that want to live a simpler life, right?
yeah, yeah, it's yes. It's a simpler life in a lot of ways. In other ways, you kind of have to be half pioneer woman also,
Ah,
you know. So it's just different than living in a house for sure. And there's pros and cons to it as there is everything else. But
yeah.
I love it. A lot of people are doing it and they love it. It's a great community out there. RV people are super nice for the
Mm,
most part. Most of the ones I have met, very nice, very helpful, and just seem to have a little more of a carefree way about them, you know.
yeah. So I imagine like there's quite a community too, right? It creates this kind of whole community with people kind of at these different sites. You guys are going on these different adventures. You're out in nature. It's just without a little bit of life's distractions. For me, it feels a little bit like yesteryear. I said to you when we had
Mhm.
this conversation on the podcast, I want it to feel like we're sitting around a campfire. So, that's how I imagine it,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, it is. And like our experience of living at the resort up in Plymouth. Oh my gosh, Terry, it was so fun living there because there were a lot of full-time people. And when you're out all the time cooking dinner, you spend more time outdoors than you do indoors, even the people that are
Mm,
working and coming home. And you meet people, you're walking your dogs, people are out. I mean, we met so many people in the 2 years that we were there that are lifelong friends now. We've stayed in
mm.
touch, we get together, we'll go camping together. And it's a great lifestyle. It's a great way to meet people. And then on the weekend people would come in and it was like party central there.
Oh,
People,
oh,
seriously, it was so fun. Halloween was just amazing every weekend in October. This whole group of people would come in and they would put up all these elaborate decorations in their campsite.
wow.
And kids from the community every Saturday night in October would come trick or treating and go. I mean, I'm talking really elaborate. It was so much fun,
Wow.
so much fun. And there, we talked with people, there were people there that had been coming there for decades with their families. And this one family I met, they came every year and then they were flying their kids home from South Carolina and here, there, and the other, so that it was a tradition for them, you know. So it's been
Mm,
so much fun. It really has. And we've met a lot of really nice people.
wow. It just makes me feel like it really keeps people connected. It just seems like families that seem really connected just to hear, people coming back with these traditions at these locations and people are outside and just seems so healthy. You think about today where people, pull into their garage, close their door,
Yep,
maybe grab their mail,
exactly.
close their garage door and beeline into the house, right?
Yeah,
So this is a little bit of yesteryear where people are outside, they're making connections, they're talking, they're not
yep.
always on their phone, they're not on social media. I mean, you are, I'm sure you have that downtime, but I mean, I don't know. It just makes, as I'm talking to you, it just kind of relaxes my whole body. Like there's a part of me that, as you know, I've shared, I love nature. I love being in the mountains. And, having grown up in a small town in Washington, that's just, my grandfather used to say, you can take the girl out of the country, but you can never take the country out of the girl.
Yeah.
And so as you're talking, I mean, just a lot of this really, really resonates. And I have a husband who is not this way at all. Um, so I love it. I just think it's just
Yeah.
that's probably why I've been intrigued and drawn to you right from the beginning because I love what you do. And all someone has to do is drive along PCH up, going north in California and just look at
Yeah.
all the RVs and,
Yeah.
you know, to see that. And, even celebrities have done RVs. Like I think about Matthew McConaughey with his
Hmm.
Airstream and all that.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
anyway, it's just a super cool
Yep.
space.
It is. It's
So
wonderful.
I love it. I love
Not for
that.
everybody. Not everybody's
Yeah.
gonna love it. It's not for
No.
everybody because it is a lot of work too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work too. But for us, it's worth it.
So the positives really are just this community, being out in nature, being with people. What do you think are some of the challenges that you find that it's hard, what are the harder things?
I did a video on this. Not having, well, not for me, not
Yeah.
having a washer and dryer, having a 10 cubic foot refrigerator that
Mm.
has inconsistent temperature, depending on the
Yeah.
weather. But there are rigs, the big nice rigs, they'll have washer dryer hookups, they'll have residential refrigerators, but we bought ours more for off-road. So
Mm.
we sacrificed size for quality
Mm.
with the VP suspension system and that so that we could boondock. In other words, we can go out into on public land because we have solar and
Oh,
that charges
wow.
our batteries and we can be away from everybody, which is nice. But on a day-to-day basis of living, since we're full-time, stationary, but still camping when we can, right? We pull out and go. Not as much as we did, unfortunately, but is those things, the refrigerator, the washer, not having the washer and dryer. When and it's just work. Physically, it's work to set it up and
Yeah.
take it down.
Hmm.
Um, and you're everything's there. So you got to empty your tanks, you got to fill your tank or have it hooked up to the city water, so it's just a little more. We don't think about those things or conserving water in the shower, when we live in a house. You don't think
Right.
about those things. So if you're out boondocking somewhere and, we have a 80-gallon freshwater tank, which is a lot for an RV, but it's because it's how it's designed. You have to conserve water if you want to last for a while without having to fill up your water or empty your black or gray tanks. So,
Yeah.
um, just different considerations. But it can be physically hard work setting it up and taking it down. I mean, you get a system down, it's all about, being very methodical,
Hmm.
checking and double checking.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I imagine you guys create
but
like checklists, like just to make sure certain things are done.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, that would make
yeah.
sense. And I know you're so organized, so that would make sense. As you're talking too, it makes me think about like the value that you add to your clients because it makes me think about for a while I did real estate and you think about, you're asking the questions to people what matters to them. So like you're talking about, I know you've talked about this particular trailer that you bought because it's so well built versus buying a larger one like you're describing that has the washer and dryer and all those different things. So I'm sure people, especially first time, which I think is really kind of the
Mhm.
niche where you are, people that are buying their first time
Yeah,
RV, they really have to be equipped with this knowledge so they understand what matters to them. Kind of
yes,
right?
yeah,
What are they willing to sacrifice and what things really matter to help them have that successful experience?
exactly. Yeah. And it's, you have to really ask yourself some questions if you really want to, because you'd be surprised. People will buy a rig and then they realize after they've already got it, oh man, we
Yeah.
should have, maybe this wasn't the right one, and I want to help them to identify what is the right one for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because it's a lot of money. And yeah, it's very easy to end up making an impulsive decision.
Mm,
And, I really encourage my clients to take your time.
yeah.
Don't, and, personally for me, I don't make any big financial decision on the spot. I sleep on it
Hmm.
one, two, three, however many nights, and I trust my gut.
Awesome.
And my goal is to save them money. And very often that could be with the purchase. They'll
Mm,
make a mistake with the purchase. Save them time. So that learning curve, because it's a big learning curve, and I compact all that information and deliver it to them and answer their questions and that sort of thing in
mm,
my programs, so that they have enough information to ask themselves questions and make decisions that are going to be best for them.
right.
And so save them time, save them money
Totally does.
along the way. And the things, that initial purchase can be the first place that they could make a mistake, a big
Yeah.
mistake, because, you know, they're buying from a dealership. And it's just as important to research the dealership if you're going to buy from one as it is to research on the rigs,
Oh,
because not all dealerships have good reputations
wow.
with servicing their customers, so there's a lot. And then
Yeah.
to save them time. So if I can compact all this information that I've learned in my experience and my knowledge and save time so that they can get on the road sooner and with confidence and
Right.
know my business is unique and that I'm there for them. They can ask however many questions that they want and they'll get their questions answered. And if I don't have the answer, I'll go find it,
Mm.
you know?
It's
So
so good. I was listening to one of my coaches when I first started out, when I wrote my book and then started taking some speaking classes. There's a gentleman named James Malinchak. So he's well known in speaking world. But I just heard him say that hire people, find coaches and mentors to help you get get there faster, save you time and money. You don't want someone to get you there just 10% faster. Find somebody who's going to get you there at least like 90% faster and save you
yeah.
all the years and pain of making those mistakes. And he
Mhm.
said, I just think people are asinine that don't get a coach or a mentor or an advisor. And I thought that was so great because isn't it true?
Yeah.
Like as I'm listening to you, I don't have an RV, but if I needed one, you're the person I'm going to call, or I wanted one,
Mhm.
I would call you. I mean, you have
Yeah.
researched and done so much. You have so much knowledge and wisdom, and plus you're very calming just in the way you talk and deliver information, but you add incredible value, Kathy. Worth every
Thank
penny.
you. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I
Yeah.
love seeing people, it's an exciting time for them to get an
Mm,
RV. I remember what that was like. Oh my gosh. We took our time. It took us a couple years before we did it. And I
yeah.
don't know. I want to help people get out there. Get out there and do
Mhm.
it because life is short.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Life is short. I just said to somebody, or maybe I said that to you. I just wish I had the courage to, kind of dive in and just do something like that. I guess there's a part of me that's a little bit like that. I've got this little bit of this kind of adventurous side of me. And so I'm just really intrigued by it. Well, it's wonderful. Well, we're going to put all your information in the show notes where people can find with you. If anybody's interested or knows of anybody that's interested in buying an RV and wants to know how to do it, you're definitely the person to call as an advisor. And so we'll put that in there.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, definitely. Before we move on with that for that topic, is there anything else you kind of want to include, like in with the RV experience, what people get if they work with you, anything else like that that I've left out?
Just the one-on-one consultation,
Mm,
and I have all the lists, budget, maintenance logs, and that sort of thing to help them start out on the right foot. And we talk about all kinds of things, you know, around the IRB. And one of the things that most people don't think about is their mindset and managing their expectations,
oh wow.
because the RV industry is different than the auto industry. RVs are not like an automobile that's assembled in a factory with precision robotics and they just go down the line and the machines are putting them all together. RVs are handmade.
Wow, I didn't
They're
know that.
handmade. They're put together by people. And uh, different manufacturers have different levels of quality control, some
Mm,
not so good. The materials are always a consideration because of weight, and that's why my brand, Outdoors RV, does not make any really big rigs because they use better materials and
oh,
they're built for all year round, very hot and very cold temperatures. So if you don't know that and you buy brand new and you buy perhaps a brand that doesn't have a great reputation, unknowingly buy that, and you take it out the first time and all kinds of things fall apart,
mm,
and you just spent, 60, $80,000, and you got to take it back in because doors have fallen off, and I'm not kidding, this happens. Doors have
Wow.
fallen off on the inside and that sort of thing. So I think it's important people are knowledgeable in those aspects, and that's part of my program
Mm,
mindset, because it's impossible to prevent everything. So it's
mm,
not if, but when something happens, if you know that that's something that can happen and how to handle it, it can make, and you have the mindset knowing, okay, this is all part of it. You got to take the bad with the good.
right.
It makes it a little easier to.
So along this line, I know you've kind of stepped into this other thing. The way you and I have really connected is also trying to help you kind of find your voice and kind of share what you've learned on a different platform because all these different social media platforms can be so overwhelming, especially today. And for me, it's been so much fun to see you really kind of light up now and really feel like you found your voice. And you've done that because you have just launched your first podcast. Woohoo!
Yes, yes, very exciting, very
So,
exciting.
and I'm just excited because as I said to you, I can just see you sitting around the campfire talking to people and sharing their stories, just like you're talking now, these different people that you meet and what are their experiences? What does it feel like to be a part of this community? And what do they do on the weekends? And how do you do your laundry? I know in that video you did, I think you showed one maybe of your daughter pulling your grandson in on a sled. Is that right? To go to
Yeah,
the
she
laundry.
posted, yeah, she replied with that in the comments. Yeah, pulling them through the snow onto the laundromat with
Yeah.
the on the sled with the laundry and the
Yeah.
toddler.
So
Yeah.
just awesome. So tell a little bit kind of just, what that experience has been like for you because what that's been like working on that and now just your excitement of launching it. Just share a little bit about that.
And if you'd asked me a year ago that I would ever do that, I'd say, ha, yeah, no, there's no way, because I don't like being on camera. I don't like my voice. I'm an introvert. I just want to blend into the wall,
Yeah.
you know? And working with you it's like, because with your not, excuse me, your knowledge and all the skills that you have to share those, with your clients, what it did for me is, so now I know all the components,
Mhm.
to doing videos and doing a podcast, with how to use your voice, your
Mhm.
body language, the tools you need, how to edit. I mean, there's all these, just like in my business, all these behind the scene things that happen that if you don't know, which you shared and I've learned from you, well, what does that do? Just like with my program, gives you confidence,
Mm,
gives you confidence. So working with you
mm,
has really, and you're so supportive. And I mean, I've loved it. And
mm,
so, yes, it's built my confidence. It's made me feel, it's like starting messy. Just do it. Just get
mm.
out and do it. And it didn't start out great, but I'm improving all the time. And that's the
Yep.
important thing, I guess, right? There's
Yeah.
always room for improvement. So, but it just, I'm not, I've never been a huge fan of social media.
Mm,
And I just felt like I was getting nowhere,
yeah.
because Facebook was not friendly to how I was learning to build my business and trying to build my business. It was not, I think it's changed, over
Yeah.
time, just like everything else, it changes. So maybe it's not so easy to do it that way anymore. And so I thought, if I was, just about getting ready to quit, because
Yeah.
I was so frustrated
Yeah.
and I felt really stonewalled. And in talking to you and listening to your podcasts and talking, and then anticipating that week 6 of podcast. um, it's like I was very excited about it. I was very excited about it, which, you know, is totally contrary to how I would have felt a year ago, because I didn't
Mm,
want to be on video. I didn't like my voice. I was too introverted. And so it just, thanks
mm,
to your help and support, it's brought that out of me and given me
mm,
confidence to do it.
mm.
So yeah, I'm very excited.
Well, and I almost literally, when we hit because we did it on Zoom, when you actually hit the button to launch your little
Yeah.
trailer, your trailer episode, and I literally started to tear up because I remember just like you, like with your RV, like how excited it is you are. Same experience for me. Like when I started,
Mhm.
several years ago, I knew I wanted to write a book, but I didn't really realize I wanted to start a podcast. And through this class
Yeah.
we took, that was the assignment I think I shared, and then they had us do this trailer, and I was like, huh, wow, I really like this. And so same thing. I have that feeling too. And I want to help people. And I'm sure you feel this way too. I want to be the person that I needed when I first started out, right? I want to
Yes.
be there and
Yeah.
support people. And encouragement is just part of my nature anyway. I love it. And even for me now, Cathy, today, looking at you, seeing you here on Zoom, your face lights up the minute you start talking about a podcast. I saw you fading, like even in our group, I
Yeah.
saw how frustrated you were. I saw you, I could see, I think you even uttered the words, I'm about ready to quit. And so,
Yeah.
and to see what you're doing now is just so empowering and exciting and wonderful. And you're meeting all these other women that are out there doing this. And
Yeah.
to have this really specific niche is so cool. And I'm super proud of you. And so I just kind of wanted to highlight
Thank
that for a
you.
moment because I
Yeah.
think it takes it takes all of us. We can never do this alone, right? And it
Right.
takes somebody kind of walking along beside you to help you see the best parts of yourself that you don't see,
Hmm.
and to help
Yeah.
you feel seen and heard, as I say, and valued
Yep.
and
Yep.
belong. And it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be, and it's not the same for everybody. And I think Facebook has changed. I just heard somebody say that Facebook's really great for creating communities, but Instagram's kind of more for building business. I don't know.
Mhm.
But the social media world has definitely changed. They all
Yeah.
want ads now. It's not what it once was. And I think we all have to find where we feel at home, to grow our
Yeah.
businesses. What is that? To try to fit into what everybody else is doing doesn't work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And we don't all fit into the same box for sure. And I
Yeah.
know with right now at this chapter of my life, I want to love what I do.
Mm,
Even even the nuts and bolts part that's not our favorite doesn't mean that we have to hate it. If it's something that you like,
wow. That
so
makes me think about something that I've heard, when I first started in this personal growth and development space too, and it was definitely in the pandemic. I mean, we had a life, went through some hard things, but it was in the pandemic where I was like, got my first coach, and I was like, I didn't know really what a life coach was. I was like, oh, wow. But I've heard Dean Graziosi say it's selfish if you don't help people with your information and get them where they want to go.
yeah,
And have fun doing it. Why not? Right.
yeah,
And so, they're missing out if they don't get to work with you and you get to make a difference in their life and save them all this time and money and help them have a much better experience and a better quality of life because they made a decision that was an informed decision
yeah,
versus just an impulsive one, or got
yeah,
sold just by somebody that's just a salesperson trying to sell another RV, right?
yeah, yeah. That's
So
so true.
it's beautiful what you
Yeah,
do. And it's your experience and all the time and effort and coaching and all that you've put into it that makes you so valuable. People need you. People need you that are buying an RV. Seriously, I would not know the first thing about what it would take to run an RV. I
yeah.
wouldn't know at all.
I
So,
think most people don't. I mean, we all have to learn sometime. Better
yeah.
to learn through education than through bad experiences.
Oh,
I think,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, the hard
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
the school of hard
Exactly.
knocks way.
Yeah. I always feel like we all have to learn that somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah, it's still gonna happen, but if you can minimize it,
yeah.
especially if it's gonna cost you money,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah.
you know, what they would pay you, they will save in mistakes. Like you said, I think that's so well
Mhm.
said. I've heard you say that before, and
Yeah,
it's so
one
true.
one costly mistake is gonna cost more than my course costs.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
know you told a story recently of someone backing up because they didn't have someone spotting and watching and did significant damage to a very, very expensive rig. And
Yeah.
had they kind of know what to do and had you to help them, it would have saved them thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and they weren't even backing up. They were pulling through a spot because there's pull
Oh,
through spots, but there were
oh,
trees. And, when you're spotting somebody, You have to watch high, you have to watch low, and you have to watch all the way around.
Mm,
So you're, as a spotter, you're moving around and communicating, usually cell phone. If you don't have a signal, we have walkie-talkies that we use, because it's often when you're camping remotely, you don't have a cell signal, but you
mm,
got to be able to communicate. So hand signals, the right verbal cues makes a huge difference. But yeah, and that, I mean, they basically put a big gaping hole in the front cap of their fifth wheel. And
wow.
it was probably close to a $200,000 rig. And
Wow.
that was gonna be an expensive fix.
Wow.
That would have to replace the whole front cap. But yeah.
Wow. So if they had you, I mean, yeah, it's amazing. So you are just loaded with information, really are. I mean, just hearing you, you've given lots of golden nuggets and information. So before we go, tell me what message do you want people to know before we kind of say goodbye here? What would you like people to know mostly? Kind of what message?
Well, it's a it's a whole different world out there traveling in an RV.
Hmm.
It's such a different experience than going to the airport, getting on a plane and flying over all that scenery you miss while
Yeah.
you're up in the air.
Yeah.
It's a great lifestyle, however you choose to do it, whether you're a weekend warrior or you're a full-time family that homeschools. There are a
Mm,
lot of those out there now too. If you have an interest in it, check into it.
yeah.
You may not know what you're missing. You may not
Mm,
know what you're missing. And it's just a lot of fun, and it's a great community. And I'm here to help. I
yep.
love to help people be successful and comfortable and confident at it. So,
Very good. And so I will link everything about you where they can reach out and find you in the show notes. And I will link your new podcast in there so that they can listen
okay.
in because you're going to
Hmm.
give lots of information and also just kind of share some of your adventures. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to listening to it as well. So, with our
And
parting words, go ahead.
and the other thing is, I'd like to offer your listeners a 20% off discount
Oh,
on
excellent.
any of my programs.
Great.
Yeah.
And
And I think I gave you the link for a 45-minute free consultation or
yep,
strategy call.
yep,
They can click on that link and they can book in my calendar a consultation if they would like more information on my programs and how I can help them. If I
great.
can ask them a few questions and see how I can help them. So I'd be happy to offer that to any
Great.
of your listeners who are considering RVing. And
Wonderful. And I think I know you sent me all that, so we'll put all that in the show notes. Did you give a specific code for that, or we'll just offer just say if you listen to this on the podcast, do you have a name for the code? I can put that
well,
in.
you
I'll
could
put that in the
just,
show notes.
yeah, just put Redlow. Hello, Redlow could be the
Okay.
code, just so I know where they're, or if they mention your name or your
Very good.
podcast.
Excellent. And I will put that all in the show notes where you can reach Cathy, you can reach out to her, you can follow her on Facebook. She has a private Facebook group. I'll put that in as well. She now has this podcast. And so all that will be available. You're just such an inspiration, Cathy. And I think for me, I just love just to see women kind of navigate these life transitions. It's never too late to kind of start again and try something new, something that you love,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Like I think it was so
Yeah.
beautifully said, life's too short not to have fun, especially at this season of life and love what you do.
Yeah.
And so this whole space of personal growth and development and coaching and being, a consultant is just grown leaps and bounds. I just marvel. I love it. Just it lights me up so much to hear the different things the women are doing, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
it's really fun. So you have a wonderful niche and can help so many people, save them a lot of time and money and pain, mistakes, and things from like getting a hole in the front part of their vehicle and all that stuff. So thank you so much. I just appreciate you being
Thank
here.
you. It's my
I'm
pleasure, Terry. Truly, it's my
oh,
pleasure. I just love spending time with you, and really am grateful for all your help,
well, thank
your
you. And
coaching, and your support. It's just been wonderful.
well, thank you. It's been a pleasure getting
Yeah.
to know you. And thank you so much for saying yes and saying yes to being here today. And
Yeah, absolutely.
What is it that you say? You can say your tagline because I love your tagline.
Oh gosh, now you're gonna put me.
Oh, I put you on the spot.
I got so many other things. Wishing you amazing adventures, safe travels, and hope to see you on the road.
There we go. I love it. So we'll see you all on the road. Keep stepping forward. Have an amazing day. Thank you again. God bless.